The magic of World of Warcraft is in the slow moments. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I watched the first minute of this video today, and I thought to myself, you know what, we're just gonna check this one out together, because it actually sounded really cool, and it seemed to have a really good message as well in the video. So either way, let's not waste too much time on the intro here, let's play the video, and let's see what it's about.
For some people, this is Warcraft. And to be fair, I get it. That is Warcraft for a lot of people. That is the part of the game they love. That is where they get their enjoyment from. The challenge, the speed, the competition, the feeling of improving and pushing harder content. But for me, Warcraft...
I will say, for me, I'm somebody who plays both classic and retail, right? I haven't, like, in the past, I've been playing retail on kind of a high level as well, pushing some high level Mythic Plus, did the gold challenge modes on every single class back in the Warlords of Draenor, and was doing Mythic raids at one point as well. Nowadays, I don't really, I was gonna say I don't have time for it, I definitely have time for it, I just prioritize my time differently, and as a result of that, I just don't play the game like this anymore. But it's always fun to watch, so anytime there's a race to world first, I'm watching it. Anytime there's an MDI, which stands for Mythic Dungeon International, I always watch that as well. I'm not that much of a PvP watcher. I mean, the Arena World Championship can be fun every now and then, but it's so much dragging out time. You're waiting for dampening, you're kiting, I don't know.
Is this walking?
The point I was trying to make there is that I love that end game element of retail and speedrunning as well. I love the competition aspect of retail. It's way more interesting than Classic, for example, where Race to World First is a half-hour race. I will say the speedrunning in Classic is really cool to see, because retail doesn't really have a speedrunning format in raids, especially like Mythic Plus, absolutely, there we have speedrunning, but in raids, retail doesn't really have a speedrunning thing for raids. Meanwhile, Classic does, and that's really fun to see.
Through Elwyn Forest when the light hits the trees just right, standing in Stormwind and actually looking at the buildings instead of just using it as a place to grab quests and Hearthstone back to, riding through Loch Madan and seeing those huge statues carved into the mountainside, walking through the Undercity and realising you are literally following the same path Arthur's took when he came home and murdered his own father. That is Warcraft to me. And the thing is, neither way is right or wrong. That is one of the best things about the game. World of Warcraft has always had many ways to play. You can raid, PvP, collect mounts, level alts, chase achievements, or just wander around zones and take screenshots if that's what you enjoy. But I do think as you get older, you start to appreciate the slower side of this game more, because the older you get, the more you realise how quickly everything moves. Not just in games, but in life in general. Everything now is about speed, about convenience, about efficiency, or at least what people think efficiency is. And I'm not saying all of that is bad. Some of it is obviously useful. In my lifetime, we've gone from sending letters to speak to someone, to phone calls, to texts, to messages now that aren't even full sentences. So years ago, people could take the time to write a letter and then walk to post it. And now people can't even construct full sentences, or they send you back the old good thumbs up. And when I was younger, if I wanted a new pair of football boots, for example, I'd have to ask my dad to take me 20 miles down the road on a weekend so we could get them. Now you can order the same thing on your phone in about 30 seconds and have it at your door the next day. But even then, the delivery driver doesn't wait for you to answer. He knocks, takes a picture, and by the time you get to the door, he's already halfway down the street. Everything has become quicker, but not everything has become better because of it. And I think that mindset has slowly crept into WoW as well. You can see it in dungeons, raids, leveling, the way people talk about the game. It's always about getting somewhere as fast as possible, the fastest route, most XP per hour, quickest dungeon, easiest gearing method, fastest way to skip.
I feel like even if you don't look at the whole classic versus retail aspect for this, but if you were somebody who played on Elysium, for example, or any of the other vanilla WoW private servers as well, Nostalrius, for example, as well, and then you played classic, and then maybe you played Season of Mastery, and then maybe you played classic WoW Anniversary as well, you notice a shift every single fresh in the player base, and not like in who plays, but it's not like we get fresh blood, but it's just people play the game differently every single time, and it feels like every time we play Classic again, we optimize it more and more. It's less about having fun and more about just getting to whatever your goal is as soon as possible and completing the game basically. So whether your goal is to get to level 60 and then quit, you do that as fast as possible, and when you're there, you're done. And some people have just want to do the raid, for example. They do that and then they're done. And some people want to get a certain legendary. Like in Season of Discovery as well, we had some people in my guild who only joined to get a legendary, and then either they quit when they got that legendary, or they quit before that point even, because they were just like, okay, you know what? Nope, I'm not doing this again. I don't know, it just feels like every single time we play Classic WoW, people optimize the fun out of the game for themselves and for other people as well. And it's just all about completing goals and not about anything else.
The bit you're currently doing so you can get to the bit you apparently actually want to play. And again, I do understand it to a degree. People have jobs, families, and people have limited time. Not everyone wants to spend 3 weeks leveling one character through old zones. But at the same time, when everything becomes about rushing through the game, I do think something gets lost. Because World of Warcraft is not just a menu you queue from, it's not just a loading screen between boss fights, and it's not just a checklist of things to complete before reset. It is a world that is literally in the name, World of Warcraft. And when you slow down, you start to notice how beautiful that world is. You start to notice things you would completely miss if you were only focused on the fastest route. Take Undercity for example. Most people, if they go there now, probably just run straight to where they need to go. They take the elevator, mount up, grab what they need and leave. But if you actually slow down and walk through it, the whole place feels different. You are not just in a capital city, you're in the ruins of Lordaeron. You are walking through a place where one of the most important moments in Warcraft history happened. Arthas came home through those gates. He walked across that floor and he killed King Terenas, his own father. And you can still see the bloodstain there, which is insane when you think about it, that little detail. It is history, it is storytelling baked into the world itself. And if you rush through that area, you might not even notice it. That is what I love about WoW especially.
You know, okay, so I'm somebody who, I really like the lore of WoW, but I'm not gonna walk through this place every single time and think the way he just said. It's cool maybe the first time, but at some point you stop thinking like this every single time. I don't know, like, walking into Lordaeron every single time and just being like, oh, dude, this is where the Lich King was once upon a time. Oh, chills. It's cool the first time, and it makes sense for a video aspect as well to talk about these things, but when I'm playing the game, I don't think like this, man. I really just don't. I appreciate the lore, I really like the lore as well, I don't think this way. What hits me the most is certain types of music sometimes in Classic, simply questing in, especially for me, Elwyn Forest and Westfall, and just listening to that music, that hits me with like nostalgic feelings every now and then.
Some of the storytelling is not told to you, it is just there, in the buildings, in the music, in the zone layout, in the books scattered around the world. You can walk through a zone and feel its history before you've even read a quest. And that is something I think WoW has done better than almost any other game. I generally do not think any other game has matched that feeling for me. There are games with better graphics, with more modern systems, more cinematic storytelling, but there is something about Azeroth that just feels different. It feels like a place that existed before you arrived and will still exist after you leave. And the more you slow down, the more you see it. If you bounce between retail and TBC Classic like I do, you start noticing these little connections everywhere. You see Arator in Honor Hold years before he becomes relevant in the modern story. You see quests in Netherstorm mentioning Dimensius, a character who comes back into focus much later. You see names, places, and ideas that were planted years.
Yeah, dude, playing TBC Anniversary, by the way, right before Midnight came out, gave me a whole different perspective on Midnight, both for good and for bad. It allowed me to have a different outlook on both Eversong Woods in retail right now, and Voidstorm as well, and Suleiman. But it is a little bit weird how we defeat Dimensius in a 5-man party in the Burning Crusade, and then suddenly, 20 years later, in Midnight, when we are stronger people, no, not necessarily in real life, but like our characters have gone from being mere peasants in TBC to being like the heroes of Warcraft now in after 20 years. We're like the heroes and we have the best gear, legendaries, you name it. And now it takes a 20-man mythic party to kill Dimensius and they wipe like hundreds of times. Well, not really. Dimensius was in the last raid boss of the War Within, but basically the entrance to Midnight, right? So yeah, I don't know. To me, that was weird. A boss we killed in a regular 5-man quest in TBC is now an endgame raid boss in retail. Make it make sense, please.
Years ago, sometimes decades ago, and suddenly they matter again. That is one of the best things about playing WoW slowly. You start connecting the world together. It stops being a bunch of disconnected expansions and starts feeling like one long history. And I think creating content for WoW has made me appreciate this even more, because now when I'm making videos, I spend a lot of time traveling around the world just to get a few seconds of footage from somewhere. I might go to Stormwind for one shot, then Elwyn, then Loch Medan, then across the Tirisfal, and sometimes I'll go somewhere just to get one small clip. But while I'm there, I end up stopping for a minute because the place looks so good. There are times where I'll be in Stormwind or Elwyn Forest in the evening, and the light just falls across the trees, the stone, and the rooftops in a way that makes the whole place feel alive. Not flashy and not overly cinematic, just beautiful, in that quiet Warcraft way. And this is one of the many reasons I love WoW, because there are still moments where you can stand in this world and feel something. One of my favourite places in the entire game is Loch Medan, and a huge part of this is those two statues. Every time I see them, I think of Lord of the Rings. Not because they are exactly the same, but because they have that same old fantasy feel. Huge stone figures watching over the land, a sense of history, a sense that people built things here long before you turned up. That's the kind of fantasy I love. And Lord of the Rings is a perfect example of what I mean with slowing down. It is one of the greatest fantasy stories ever written. But how many people actually read now? Barely anyone I know reads books regularly. People will say they do not have time to read, but yet they have time to scroll through Instagram. They have time to watch random videos they won't remember tomorrow, and they have time to sit on the phone for half an hour without even realising. But the thing with a book is, you can't really consume it like that. A good book asks something of you. You have to slow down, you have to focus, you have to imagine, and you have to sit with it. But because of that, the reward is so much deeper. A good book can stay with you for years. A random short video is gone from your head 5 minutes later. And I think WoW can be a bit like that. If you play it like another dopamine machine, just bouncing from reward to reward, queue to queue, upgrade to upgrade, then it becomes another thing to consume quickly and forget. But if you slow down, If you actually take it in, the game gives you something different, something calmer, something deeper, something that lasts a bit longer. And I know that might sound a bit dramatic for a game where we also spend half the time killing boars and collecting bear livers, but I do think there is something genuinely valuable in playing this way, because it is not just about WoW, it changes how you approach things outside the game as well. If you can slow down in a game, you can slow down elsewhere, you can get better at paying attention.
You know, this right here is why I'm so happy we have both Classic and Retail, because I love the way Classic makes me feel, and I love the slower gameplay of Classic, both how long it takes to level, and just slowing it down, right? You spend more time, the world seems bigger because of that as well. Flight paths take time, you can't even fly everywhere either. You just have to travel a lot, and you travel slowly as well. You get a slow mount at level 40. Until level 40, you're stuck using your own feet and no mount at all. There's not even any carriage systems either, which I kind of wish there was, by the way, a carriage system between towns, but the fact that there isn't, once again, just slows the game down. Now, I love that in Classic. I absolutely do not want to see it in Retail. Retail has outgrown that, in my opinion. It is just, it's evolved past it. Now, is it lovely in Classic? Absolutely. I think Retail and Classic right now are two so different games, appealing to very different people, that I think it's very good we have both. And we should not try to retailify Classic, and we should not try to classicify Retail. Just leave them both the way they are. I do think some things Classic does terribly, and I also think Retail does some things terribly as well. The way they've taken out all of the Warcraft elements and make it like World of Peace and Lovecraft, and World of Housecraft as well. The heavy monetizing and stuff, I'm not a big fan, but yeah, like, I don't know. I think Classic is good for Classic, and Retail is good for Retail. That's how I feel. I'm really happy we have both now. Because until was it 2018 or 2019? I'm a little bit dumb when it comes to numbers like that, but I think when Classic came out, it was in BFA, right? And at that point, to me, BFA was such a big letdown. The trailer for BFA was great. The trailer was so good, and the gameplay just didn't match the trailer. So to me, Classic launched at a perfect time, because I was just like, really? This is the expansion we're playing right now? That's how I felt about BFA, right? So it was the perfect time for me to actually give Classic a try, and it came out at the exact right time as well, which was, yeah, around BFA, mid BFA, I want to say, right?
Attention, you can get better at sitting with one thing instead of constantly needing another hit of stimulation. You can watch a film without checking your phone every 5 minutes. You can read a book without convincing yourself, I just can't concentrate. You can go for a walk and actually notice the things around you. You can have a conversation without half your brain being somewhere else, and you can be more present. And I think that is something a lot of people are losing now. We are always waiting for the next thing, the next message, the next video, the next delivery, or the next expansion. And because of that, we sometimes forget to appreciate what is right in front of us. That is why I think slowing down in WoW matters, because this game has so much more to offer than speed. And if you only rush through it, you are missing a massive part of what made it special in the first place. This is also why I was not a fan of how Blizzard handled boosts. I understand why people
Yeah, dude, the same. 100%. 100%, man.
buy them, and I definitely understand why Blizzard sells them, but from a world perspective, it feels a bit sad for me in a way, because leveling is not just an obstacle, or at least it shouldn't be. Leveling is where you actually live in the world. It's where you see the zones, the cities, and learn what your class feels like. It's where you go from being some random nobody with a rusty sword to someone who's travelled across continents. So when the answer is pay money and skip most of it, I think something's gone wrong. Especially in classic or TBC style versions of the game, where the world is such a huge part of the appeal. Personally, I think something like an incremental joyous journeys would have been far better. As we got closer to the TBC release, increased the XP bonus week by week. That way, at least people still get to level, they still go out in the world, fill the zones, run the dungeons, and experience the journey. That feels healthier for the world than just selling people a skip, because the world is the adventure, the journey is the adventure. And I know that sounds old fashioned, but I think old fashioned is sometimes exactly what WoW needs. Not in every system and not in every bit of design, but in spirit, that slower, more grounded feeling where the world feels like a world, not just a lobby. Because when WoW is at its best, you are not just playing a game, you are spending time in a place. And that is why people still talk about their favourite zones. Elwyn Forest, Tirisfal, Westfall, Duskwood, Loch Modan, the Barrens, Silverpine, the Grand, the Grizzly Hills, loads of places. It's not just about nostalgia. Nostalgia is a part of it, of course, but it's not only that. Those places had atmosphere, they had identity, they let you exist in them for a while. And I think that is what I keep coming back to. I do not only want WoW to be exciting, I want it to be atmospheric. I want it to feel like I am in Azeroth. I want to walk into a zone and feel like it has history. I want capital cities to feel like places people actually live. I want dungeons to feel like adventures, not just corridors to speedrun. I want raids to feel like the climax of a story, not just a weekly loot machine. Now, all of that.
I will say, for pretty much every expansion we've had after Vanilla, it's just every expansion they add the zones, but they also remove every other zone from previous expansions beforehand. Like, if you play TBC Anniversary right now, how much do you interact with Eastern Kalimdor and the Eastern Kalimdor, really? Eastern Kingdoms and Kalimdor. How much do you interact with those two places? And when Wrath comes out, how much time do you actually spend away from Northrend? When Cataclysm comes out, how much time do you spend in non-Cataclysm zones? And in Midnight WoW right now, how much of your time is spent in Eversong Woods, Voidstorm, Harrendar, and Suleiman? I do understand why they do what they do, but it just makes every expansion feel so small. Because yes, we have such a huge world in retail right now. I can go to Eastern Kingdoms, I can go to Kalimdor, I can go to Dragon Isles, I can go to Northrend, Broken Isles, Kultiris, Sandalar, Pandaria, Castlegar, you name it. But you never do. You never go there unless you're collecting old expansion stuff. In the current expansion's gameplay, you have 4 zones. Which it just makes the game feels so small compared to what it was before. Because what he just said about zones having an atmosphere, I do feel like the Midnight WoW zones have a really good atmosphere. I love questing in Eversong Forest, and, Eversong Woods here, in retail, right? Eversong Woods, yeah. I love questing there, the atmosphere is great, the scenery is great, everything is just, great again. The music as well is fantastic, but the world just feels so small, because you're spending all your time in 4 zones. That's the expansion. And the expansion is the current world you're playing in. 4 zones, by the way. I feel like expansions probably could benefit from having quite a few more zones. I don't think we've had any good expansions when it comes to how many zones they had. Maybe Northrend was the last one, because Northrend had like, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 zones if you count Crystal Song. That's a good amount. Broken Isles as well. Legion, for example, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 at launch, 6 if you count the Broken Shore. And then we got Argus over time, adding 3 more zones on Argus as well. So Legion was like pretty okay, maybe. But after that, I don't know, like Dragonflight, we had 4 zones. The Waking Shores, Thaldraszus on our own plains, and the Aesir Span. And then they added a couple more zones in later patches. It just feels like we never have enough zones. In the BFA, this was the worst time, by the way, for me at least, because you had Kultiris and you had Sandalar, and yes, you did every now and then travel from Kultiris to Sandalar if you played Alliance, but as an Alliance, you mostly spent your time on Kultiris, which was 3 zones: Tiragard Sound, Drostvar, and Stormsong Valley. And then you had the Horde continent, which also had 3 zones, Nasmir, Zuldasar, and Vuldune. Ah, man. 3 zones, really?
It's still there to a degree. A lot of it never went away. You just have to stop long enough to notice it. That is why I still love logging onto this game and just wandering around sometimes. No rush, no checklists, no pressure, just being in the world. And maybe that is not the most efficient way to play.
That right there, by the way, made me think about something. I do that in Classic sometimes. I never do that in Retail. I never log on to Retail just to like look around. In Classic, I've done this multiple times in the last 2 months now. I log on, and I just walk around. I have no objective, I do nothing, I don't do a single quest, I just walk around. Whether it's walking around in Orgrimmar, Stormwind, walking from Stormwind to somewhere else, mounting up, running around. Yeah, just logging in with no objective. In Retail, I can't think of a single time when I've done that. Maybe like Warlords of Draenor. But that's because I'm weird and I like garrisons. So I would log you on just to like look at my garrison.
Or the fastest, or the best way to gear. But it might be the best way to actually remember why you love the game in the first place.
Yeah.
Because Warcraft is not only the raid boss, it is the road to the raid, it is the city you left from, the forest you passed through, the old ruin on the hill, the book on the table, the statue in the distance. It is the music that starts playing when you enter a zone you have not visited in years.
Yo.
It is the little details you only see when you stop treating the game.
Yo, I might get some hate for this, by the way, but I don't care. When it comes to the trilogy between Vanilla, TBC, and Wrath, I think Wrath had the best music. The Wrath music just hits differently, okay? It's so good. And so many different vibes as well in the different tunes. Wrath music is peak.
Game like a race. So yeah, for some people, Warcraft is the fast gameplay, the raids, the arenas, the battlegrounds, the big pulls, and that is fine. That is part of the game too. But for me, Warcraft is also those quiet moments, the slow ride to an old zone, the view over Stormwind at sunset, the bloodstain in the Undercity, the statues in Loch Modan. That feeling that the world has been here for years, waiting for you to actually look at it. And maybe that is the real magic of WoW. Not that it gives you one way to play, but it gives you a world big enough to find your own.
Alright, boys. There we go. That was a good video, by the way. What are these suggestions? Pocket Pair Palworld, Will E, and Josh Strife Hayes. Okay. Those are some good suggestions as well. Either way, I think I'm just going to leave it there, by the way. I did chime in with some comments there that hopefully you guys enjoy as well. I don't know, I really agree with everything he said. It was a very good video, and just slowing down the way you play. It's not something I want to see done in Retail, because I just don't think it fits. The end game loop of Retail right now, the way it's been ever since Legion, I want to say, it's just gotten more and more fast-paced. Ever since introducing Mythic Plus and going down the esports route, it's a lot more fast-paced gameplay. I do love that we have Classic and Retail, because that way, if you want to slow it down and play some Classic, you can do that. If you want to focus more on Retail and be more fast-paced gameplay, you can do that as well. I think Classic is the perfect thing to play, to just slow it down and level up a character, walk around for a bit and just enjoy the scenario and the scenery, plus the lore in Classic. It's just more fun to slow it down and think about the lore as well, because the lore makes sense. In Retail, the lore hasn't made sense to me ever since probably BFA. Sometime in BFA, everything just went so far downhill, and almost nothing has made sense ever since. It is just adding expansions after expansions, and adding lore in every single expansion because they have to, right? And it's just adding content for the purpose of adding content. But it's just gotten so far now where almost nothing makes sense anymore. I feel like WoW needs a reset. Not even just for the gameplay, but especially for the story. Tie the story back together and get a reset going somewhere. Because if I'm forced to take it slow in retail and try to like take in the story of the zone, the lore of the zone, and the feeling and the vibes, I'm just gonna be sat there being like, bro, I don't care. Meanwhile, in Classic, you do care, right? So the message here is a good message. I think it fits way more in Classic than in retail, but it's a very good message. All right, that's it. Like a short outro there as well, with a quick little like compilation of my thoughts there at the end. So hopefully you enjoyed that. All right, the link is down below, by the way, so go and check it out.